Hello and welcome to Afternoon Tea with Karen and Senator Fauqui.
Question is to the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Senator Penny Wong. Just when one thinks that the Labour government couldn't sink any lower on Palestine, they have made the appalling and extremely irresponsible decision to suspend funding for UNRWA. 4 months of Israel's genocide, with more than 27,000 Palestinians killed, including over 11,000 children, and you haven't uttered a word of condemnation. Yet, it took you no time at all to suspend life-saving funding to UNRWA, further enabling collective punishment of Palestinians as Israel continues its rampage and massacre in Gaza. UNRWA chief, Mr. Philippe Lazarani, has said that Israel has yet to present any evidence of its allegations to UNRWA. Minister, what evidence did you see before you made the catastrophic decision to suspend UNRWA's funding?
Well, the school thing's common knowledge because Donald Trump he pulled funding when he was president, and then I think I'm back. And here's something from 15 years ago.
UNRWA, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, has received billions in funds from Western democratic nations. It was created in 1949 as an emergency response to 500,000 Arabs who left their homes in the wake of the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. UNRWA spends about half of its budget each year, more than $500 million, on schools. It has a massive payroll, employing more than 10,000 teachers. UNRWA does not produce its own textbooks. Instead, it uses the texts of the host entity. In Jerusalem, the West Bank, and Gaza Strip, it uses new textbooks published by the Palestinian Authority. There are other UN agencies that serve descendants of refugees, yet UNRWA is the only agency that promotes the right of return to homes and villages that no longer exist. This can be seen daily in their schools. This is how an UNRWA elementary school class begins its morning. Inside the classroom, the right of return is the centerpiece of UNRWA education. Teachers instill this mantra that pupils have the right and responsibility to take back homes and villages that may or may not have belonged to their grandparents. Listen to UNRWA students and educators describe how the right of return is taught in the classroom.
ثقافة حق العودة أكيد نركز عليها كثيرا، وأكيد هذا هو جزء لا يتجزأ من ثقافة مناهجنا الدراسية. نعطيهم نوصل هاي المعلومات لطلابنا في مدارسنا عن طريق مواد التربية المدنية والتربية الوطنية.
احنا بندرس عن المخيمات الفلسطينية، والمخيم مكان أقيم للاجئين الفلسطينيين الذين أجبروا على الرحيل عن مدنهم وقراهم في فلسطين، وهم مصممون على العودة إليها. احنا بدنا نرجع على أرضنا، وهم يغتصبون أن احنا نروح عنهم.
تبين هذه الخارطة أول شيء المدن والقرى الفلسطينية، بداية من عكا، صفد، بيسان، الناصرة، حيفا، يافا، اللد، الرملة، تل أبيب، تل الربيع، وقطاع غزة، الضفة الغربية، الخليل، القدس، بيت لحم، جنين ونابلس، وكل القرى.
في فرق ما بين المنهاج الدراسي اللي مقرر للتدريس، وفي فرق ما بين مفاهيمنا كمعلمين لاجئين. المنهاج الدراسي مقيد، بتحدث عن بعض المفاهيم البسيطة جدا جدا. احنا بنحاول نغذي هذا الموضوع من حيث انه نقدر نخرج عن إطار المنهاج وبالتالي نصل لمفهوم الحقيقي لمفهوم حق العودة وتثبيته بأذهان الأطفال. أكيد في فرق بين مين هو المعلم اللي بيعلمهم، قناعته. يعني إذا هو بده يتعلم من يعني أشخاص بيميلوا لإطار ديني معين، فبالتالي بيعتبر إسرائيل هي دولة لازم تزول.
During 2020, Palestinian children, like many others around the world, couldn't go to school due to COVID-19. During that time, United Nations Relief Works Agency, or UNRWA, produced and provided the students material that went way beyond reading, writing, and arithmetic.
We found that it contains various violations of UN values, of UNESCO standards, and of UNRWA's own principles. These were educational materials which were distributed to over 320,000 Palestinian children across the West Bank and Gaza.
Marcus Sheff leads a group that monitors peace and cultural tolerance in schools. It examined the material sent to those children, and what they found was not good.
The idea that UNRWA, a UN organization, is distributing material which calls on students to defend the motherland with blood, or that glorifies terrorists and directs students to terrorists like Dalal Mughrabi, who is in their materials a role model for young girls, somebody who murdered 38 people, including 13 children on a civilian bus.
This impact group report from January lays out examples found throughout the curriculum. In mathematics, students are asked to write the number of martyrs in the First Intifada. A language studies question asks students to find the preposition in a sentence like, "Jihad is one of the doors to paradise." And in social studies, where Zionist policy is blamed for exhausting Palestinian natural resources.
It was written by UNRWA's teachers. Now, UNRWA's teachers are supposed to be trained in UN values of peace and tolerance.
Following the January impact report, UNRWA admitted to the problem and assured governments it had been addressed. A follow-up study by the impact team, however, shows that was not the case.
Within these materials, we also found hateful material which young people anywhere should not be studying, and certainly not being taught by a UN organization. So, I think what we see here is that, UNRWA is absolutely part of the problem in relation to the incitement of young people in the region.
In one social studies exercise, sixth graders are shown a map of the British Mandate called Palestine that does not include any Israel reference, and told Palestine is the geographical area which extends from the Mediterranean Sea in the west to the River Jordan in the east, and from Lebanon and Syria in the north to the Gulf of Aqaba and Egypt in the south. Its location gave it strategic importance, making it coveted by invaders and colonial powers. And there's another problem.
And that is, if you have distributed print materials to 320,000 children, then you found that you had been distributing hateful material. How exactly did UNRWA get those materials back? We have no answer to that.
Former President Trump cut funding to UNRWA because of this kind of incitement in Palestinian schools. President Biden has pledged to resume humanitarian aid to the Palestinians.
Green senators have staged a walkout of question time in protest of the government's position on Gaza. The Deputy Leader, Marine Fauqui, described the government as heartless and gutless, saying it uses weasel words and criticising it for calling for an immediate ceasefire.
The coalition is morally bankrupt when it comes to Palestine, and Labour has shown itself to be heartless, gutless cowards. You are watching the massacre of thousands of Palestinians by Israel, and you are not condemning Israel. You refuse to call for an immediate ceasefire. Well, we are not going to sit here and watch you pat yourselves on the back for doing nothing. Weasel words are not going to stop war crimes. Today, we bring the people's protest into Parliament. Free, free Palestine!
Thank you, Senator Fauqui. Minister Farrell, that was a statement, so... Order, order, Senator Hanson. Order.
All right, guys, Rukshan here, and thanks for joining me for this video. I was just watching Parliament and saw Senator Marine Fauqui from the Greens tell us all about the issues in Pakistan. I want you to have a look at this and tell me what you think.
Pakistan is experiencing some of the most intense political, economic, and climate turmoil it has seen in decades. The nation is caught in a death spiral, and the economy is in nosedive. Pakistan has billions in debt from overseas governments and institutions, and inflation is at record highs. Cost of living is rising, and people are struggling like never before. Pakistan desperately needs IMF funds to avoid defaulting on its soaring debt. The shackles of debt have crippled countries like Pakistan for far too long, and it's high time to cancel debt for the global south.
Now, look, I'm very sympathetic to the issues being faced in countries in Southeast Asia. My parents hail from Sri Lanka. I have a South Asian background, and I understand the issues in countries like Pakistan can be very detrimental to people living there. But this here, right now, this is the Australian Parliament, right? This is the Senate in the Federal Parliament of Australia, and I think the issues that our parliamentarians should be discussing, honestly, very seriously, I'm saying this not as a joke, is the issues to do with Australians.
And there you go. So I've done a bit of research for her. Can't blame her for not doing any research. She's a green, and the whole point of being a green is that what one thinks they all think. And they're all committed to pushing the same things, whether they're on local council, in the Senate, in federal parliament, state parliament. They're all, notice they all push the same thing. Yeah, it's part of being a green. Anyway, see you later. Bye.